Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Good, and yourself?
I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. So I did make you a co-host, so whenever you're ready, you could start sharing your slides. And then once you start sharing, your screen, it'll remove mine.
Right. Yep. I feel like I'm becoming a seasoned pro at Zoom.
I think we all are.
I was just in the green room, like double checking I had it. And it was like, yeah, I've been doing this for long enough.
Yeah, it should go pretty smoothly, but if there's any issues, we'll try to work through them.
Awesome. And I have two screens. So I have the chat up on the other screen so that I can pay attention to it too.
Cool. Yeah, so do I. Just
because that's how I teach. So
and you're definitely a pro.
right. Good morning, Denise. Mommy's going to be in an actual meeting where she's talking, okay? So can you make sure you can sit next to me, but we have to be quiet, okay? Thank you.
Everyone good?
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. How is everybody on this Friday morning?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for Thanksgiving meal.
Ooh, yes, that would be lovely. Is everybody getting to do something with somebody this year for Thanksgiving? I'm in Oregon, so we're kind of back on lockdown. So we don't get the big Thanksgiving this year.
Mine will be virtual, but I'll still be having at least a meal at home.
That's good. Wonderful. So today we are going to talk about focusing on the whole student during COVID. If you have any questions at any point, you can type them into the chat box. I'm paying attention to them. My name is Samantha Piers-VanderPloeg, and so is Nancy. She is the facilitator in this today. So any questions at all, please go ahead and type them. It looks like most of you have your screens off, so I'm not going to ask you to like raise hands. I can't see you, which is fine. Having screens off is totally acceptable, at least in my classrooms. I wanted to start our day off with just a how was your morning, and to talk about the stressors that we have in the morning, the distractions we have, and how we overcome them. So anybody, you can unmute yourself or type in the chat, what are some stressors, anxieties, or distractions you had this morning before getting into work mode? All right, I'll start. It is early. My morning routine consists of trying to get 2 children ready and one of them in distance learning on time, who, by the way, is in a reading assessment at this moment. So one of my major stressors this morning was making sure that not only did I make it to my meeting, but he made it to his meeting, which is a big distraction since he sits the other end of the table with me and I keep looking at him, making sure he's listening. Anybody else? Okay. So I asked that question because I think we all need to remember that not only do we have those stressors and distractions in the morning, so do our students. And for a good portion of us, our students, their stressors and distractions are much worse than me having a child that needs to take a reading assessment. And I think we all need to remember to give ourselves and our students a little grace around this time period. So everybody just take a breath. You're here, you made it. I'm happy that you made it. And we can move on with that, okay? I try to start a good portion of my classes that way because the students need to know that they're my #1 focus, not their homework. So today we're going to talk about who I am, who my students are, what distance learning is to students, their top priorities, the strategies I'm using to help with those top priorities, what we can do better, and then any questions, comments, tips, or tricks that you guys may have that we can share out with one another. So first of all, again, my name is Samantha. I am a teacher, advisor, coordinator, support person, confidant for all of my students in the 3 different programs that I run on the Mountain Hood Community College campus in Gresham, Oregon. I've been teaching for 12 years. I started in middle school, moved to preschool, elementary school, high school, and now I'm high school college. So you'll see as we continue that I pull from all of that background when working with students. And I have been advising students at the high school and college level for 4 years now. So one of my main goals as the coordinator over these programs is to bridge that gap between high school and college for my students. My students are in the East Multnomah County area. 40% of those households' income is below $50,000. 13% of them live below the poverty line. 41% of them are people of color. My students are transient. They tend to switch between districts, in and out of apartment complexes, mobile homes. They are bilingual, and actually a good portion of them are new arrivals. We have a large Russian, Hispanic, and African communities. I have a few students in the program, from the Sudan area. I have students who just came over from Russia. So when we're talking about the East Multnomah County area, it has very much been impacted by the gentrification that's occurring in Portland. My students tend to be those at promise that we talk about so much. They're dropped out, they're disengaged, they're disenfranchised, and they are completely out of school. They don't see the point in it. It's not benefiting them because they need a job, They need to support themselves. They need to support their siblings. They don't have time for something that doesn't pay. One of the main statistics that I really like to point out is that the Portland metro area has 6,000 youth, 16 to 24, that are not enrolled or have not finished high school. And that's just in my East Multnomah County. The rest of the Portland area, you could probably add 12 to 15,000 more. So we are looking at a large population of youth that are living in poverty and don't really see a way out. So what we're trying to do is bring them back into education, but do it in a way that allows them to work and allows them to be a person that needs support instead of just a student that has to do homework. So I asked my students what distance learning was to them during COVID. My programs teach online already. So before COVID started, we had classes online. Distance learning is different now during COVID because it's a forced issue. The definition of distance learning is a method of study in which lectures are broadcast or classes are conducted by correspondence or over the internet. And here's the key point: without the students needing to attend a school or college. Who says the students don't need that? Because some students, online isn't working, right? So when we say it's without the students needing to attend, not right now, not during COVID, it's just not true. They do need to attend. They do need us. They're not allowed to. It's a difference, right? The teacher's perspective is a way to semi-connect with our students and offer them part of the education they deserve while staying safe during a pandemic. Most of my teachers are sitting at home wishing they could see their students in person. They are wishing that they could be a guiding light during this time, right? Like, I want them in my classroom. I want to be able to support them. I was talking to my son's first grade teacher yesterday, and she was saying that there are so many times where she wishes she could just grab a student and give them a hug because she can see what they're going through at home and she can't help them. The student's perspective of what's going on right now, it's a good effort by teachers to continue school during a pandemic. They fully admit teachers are trying their best, but it's not enough for the student because, again, my students need that contact. They find it frustrating. They find that there's a lack of support. And part of that is because as teachers, we can't be there all the time, every minute of the day. And sometimes students are working at 2 a.m. and need help that we can't give. They are overwhelmed. Some of them find it pointless, but they also see how caring their teachers are. And this is one of the big things during distance learning right now. Students can tell who cares. The person that's there giving one-on-ones and doing extra time with them, that's the person that cares. The person that's asking, how are you doing? Not where's my homework? That's the person that cares, right? So we need to be really careful when we're talking with students what we're asking about, right? They need to know that you care so that they stay engaged. Students' top priorities, I know you're gonna be shocked by this, is not homework. I know. Students' top priorities is shelter, food, family, work, and then school. Down at the bottom, mommy's working. This is my daughter. Welcome to distractions. We need to pay attention to Maslow's hierarchy in that. And I really focus on this with my students. Sorry, my daughter touched the computer. Let me pull that back up for you. For being 4, you'd be amazed how much she knows about exiting out of things on a computer. I attended a Zoom meeting on Monday where somebody's power went out. This is just life in 2020, right? So what I was saying, when it comes to my students' top priorities, shelter and food are right up there. My first questions to students, is how are you? do you need anything? A good portion of my students need food. A good portion of my students need help supporting their families, right? So by focusing on these top three, I'm able to gain their trust and break down some of those walls they've built up about communicating needs. And I say that because in the world we live in today, asking for help is still seen as a weakness. And my students in the situations that they've grown up in cannot show weakness, right? They spend their whole day trying to maintain. We talk about grit, right? These students have grit. It may not be the grit that we've read about or the grit that we think we should see, but our students make it through every day with an amazing amount of stress, anxiety. A lot of them that are food insecure and shelter insecure, they're going through trauma on a daily basis. So when we talk about grit, they have it. They have it tenfold. The fact that they are still communicating with you in any way, the fact that they are showing up to class, the fact that they haven't blown up somehow or imploded shows how much grit they have. And we need to be very accepting of that. And we need to be vocal about it too. I appreciate your time. I understand this is hard for you, right? So my strategies, I run 3 different programs on the campus right now. I run a middle college program, which takes the excelling students at the high schools in our district and puts them onto the community college campus for full-time college classes. They are earning what we call dual credit. They are getting credit for high school and college at the same time, and a good portion of them end up with an associate's degree by the time they graduate from high school. I'm also working with the exact opposite group of those students. I am running a gateway to college, which works with the dropped out and disengaged, severely behind in credits students. And it tries to pull them into a program that gives them lots of wraparound support with flexible classes so that they can continue on their educational path while working and supporting their families and all of the other things that are sitting on their shoulders. I also run an adult high school diploma program, which takes youth between 16 and I have no age limit, and it allows them to get a high school diploma through the community college. It's a full Oregon State diploma. We're an accredited high school, and those students tend to be the teen mothers who couldn't finish. They tend to be the students who had to go get a job, had to leave school. Students for one reason or another where their high school years were not the years where they can just go to school and have fun. They were stressful, hard years. And just now in usually their late 20s and 30s, they're able to come back to school. I had one student a few years ago who was 45 and she finally came back to school to get her high school diploma. And she did it because she had a high schooler. And he looked at her one day and said, well, I don't know why I have to graduate, you didn't. And that was it for her. She didn't want that for her child. She wanted her child to understand how important learning was, just that she didn't get that opportunity as a child. So she came back and she graduated with her diploma the same time he graduated with his. So when I talk about strategies, I'm talking strategies I use for all of these students. First and foremost, mental health comes first. If you are not doing well mentally, let's not talk about homework today. Let's make sure that you're doing okay. Our students are facing really, really hard times, just like we are, right? We're all struggling. And we just need to make sure that we listen, that we observe what's going on with them, that we talk to them, and that we just sit with them. I tell my students a lot, I'm sitting with you in silent support. I do study halls multiple times during the week for these students, and I am sitting with you in silent support. I am here for you. If you need me, let me know. A lot of the time, I'm doing my homework at the same time. I'm modeling that good student behavior that I would like out of them, right? But I'm also listening. I'm also watching. I'm hoping that they'll turn their videos on so I can see how they are, but I'm also not forcing that issue. With high schoolers, forcing the issue of videos is difficult. A lot of students, especially my low-income students, are not comfortable showing their background. They don't want you to know that they're sitting in their car outside of Starbucks because that's how they got internet access today. Some of my students don't want to show their faces because their hair and their makeup aren't done. And that is a cultural thing for them, right? They don't go out of the house unless they are completely dressed. Therefore, they don't sit on a meeting either unless they're prepared for that. So we work a lot with, do you feel comfortable today showing your video? Would it be okay if maybe we went into a breakout room so that I could see how you were doing and we could talk? You also have to understand a lot of these students have anxiety, and telling them that they have to be on video and that other people could be staring at them is nerve-wracking. And we have those conversations with them. And again, that goes for elementary school and middle school students as well. My son, again, in his first grade class, has 2 students who have so much anxiety over being on video in their Zoom classroom that they don't do it, that the teacher has allowed them to just put up a picture of themselves because it's hindering them from learning. It's hurting their mental health. So we have to be aware of that. Do I want to see my students? 100% I want to see them. I want to know that they're doing okay, but not at the expense of their mental health. I do phone calls weekly with my most in need students. Most of my gateway students get a phone call every single week, and some of my adult high school students do. The middle college students, because they are accelerated and engaged in learning and have support systems at home, which is the big difference, is the middle college students tend to be white, middle class with supports at home. They don't need a phone call from me once a week checking in. They need an email from me checking in. They need a text message, but they don't need the sound of my voice the same way some of my other students do. And when I make those phone calls, again, I don't ask about homework. I ask how you are, or I haven't heard from you a while. I'm getting really worried about you. I had one student this week finally contact me back after a month of just radio silence. And my first question was not, where have you been? This is inappropriate communication. I need you to be on top of things. My first question was, how are you? Are you okay? I was worried so that he knows I care about him as a person, not a student. There is a difference. I understand that he is a person, that he has things going on in life that he may not want to tell me yet. And his response to that, was, I'm really sorry, I'm doing better. I'm going to start doing my homework now. I didn't even have to mention homework. He just knew it. He knew that that's on a list of things that he should do. And he mentioned it. I also do encouraging text messages. I use the remind.com app. It allows me to text message without giving out my personal contact information. It allows me to text students without giving out their personal contact information as well. So I can send group announcements. I can send group conversations where I take just a couple students and say, you all are in the same class, try texting one another. And that way I'm connecting students without giving out that personal information that FERPA says I'm not allowed to do. And it's not always, hey, what about your homework? A lot of the times it's a silly meme or a GIF, like today's a great day to do homework, or something about how much I miss you, or I wish I could see you in person. Community information, hey, I just heard of this really great resource. I wanted to reach out and let you know. And for mental health, we really need to allow for this last one down here. Allow for downtime. These students are stressed to the max, right? Their mental health isn't coming first to themselves. So we need to allow for downtime. So I allow for time during study halls for them to just talk to one another and be teenagers. I, when in a classroom, used to allow downtime as what I called kindergarten time. And it would be a time where we would cut and paste and color and do some kind of hands-on activity that somehow went with what we were learning for the day, but just felt like fun. It felt like being a kid again. Because you know what? I want to play. I want to color. It's been great getting to stay at home. It hasn't. Getting to stay at home while working, because I can sit down and color with the kids. We can build Legos together, right? Everybody needs that downtime. Everybody needs that time to stop thinking about all of those stressors and anxieties in their head and all of the adult things we have to do. We need time to just be. So let's let them. Let's give them that time. A lot of my students don't get that time ever. So if I give it to them, it gives them a little bit of quiet peace during their day. So remember to allow for downtime. And it may not be something that you can give during a class, but remind them, tell them it's okay to take a break. We need to show our students that we are worried about them, not our bottom line. That's the main thing here, right? All of these mental health strategies is about treating them like a person, not a bottom line. A lot of my students feel like the only reason the school kept them is because the school got money because they were there. And that's not how I want them to feel. I don't want them to feel like some kind of commodity that I need, right? Yes, higher education needs students to go. It's how they get paid. But that doesn't mean that that's their only good thing. I also use snail mail. It's a wonderful thing. Who doesn't like getting a letter in the mail? First of all, it doesn't happen often. And second of all, it shows you care. I love getting a letter in the mail. My kids just got a letter from one of my friends in the mail. She's a counselor, and she realized that, this is something that's really important. She misses the kids. She's known them their whole lives. So she sent them a letter. It was silly. Like, hey, I'm just sitting here drinking hot chocolate with marshmallows and looking at the rain. Do you like hot chocolate? That was literally all it said. My kids loved it. They went crazy. They drew her pictures. They sent one back. Guess what? We practiced our colors with the little one, and we practiced writing and spelling with the older one. It worked perfectly. So snail mail is great. Email is okay, but we all get email, and we're inundated by emails now. How many people, when you get back to work in the morning, show up with like 50 new emails? Or how many of you who got summer off came back to 400 emails in August? Emails are just kind of emails now. Snail mail, on the other hand, something that actually comes in as a tangible thing to hold, that we don't get often. I send mail. I send mail 3 times a year. I would like to do more. But this year I've only managed 3, and I'm working on holiday cards to all of my students. And when I say all of my students, I have over 400, and I'm the advisor and coordinator for all of them. So when I send mail, it's bulk mail, and it takes me 2 weeks to write everybody's address. But I do handwrite. I do address it all myself. It is, when they get it, it is obviously done with care. It is not one of the letters they get from the college that's completely typed, that had a typed label on it, that had a stamped address on it, right? That's really impersonal. And that's usually just telling you, you have a bill or we need something from you. My letters, and you can see some of them down there, my letters are silly. Again, this is where I pull in my early elementary pre-K background. People like silly. They like childish. The last set of letters I sent this summer said, I whaley miss you, and had a picture of a whale on it. Or it bugs me I cannot see you, with a picture of a bug. I'm very sad we are apart. I send birthday letters to everyone. And that seems to be something that has brought students back. A lot of my adult students who have to pay out of pocket come and go. They can't afford to be there all the time. And because it is an out-of-pocket expense, they'll take a term and then they'll take one off so they can save enough money to take the next term. We do have small scholarships in our program. And when I say small, it's really small. It is specifically for my adult program. And the only money that gets put in it is the $10 I put in a month and the $10 my director puts in a month. So it can help with a couple classes a year, but not a lot. We also have a grant for students that are on food stamps to help pay for their schooling as well. So by sending this letter, I've had students come back during COVID, come back and say, wow, you know what? I really miss you too. Like, thank you so much. When's the next term? How do I get signed up? Again, I never mentioned school. I didn't say anything about you need to return or you haven't turned your homework in. All I said is I miss you. And then they did the rest of it. They came to me. What I'm doing is showing that I am open and that I care and letting them make the step that they need to. And some of them have said, you know, thank you so much for the letter. I really wish I could come back, but it's not a good time for me. That's fine. Did I still hear from them? Yes. And that's the important part right now, is that I hear from them. Because my number one concern is that if I don't hear from you, I don't know you're okay. I also do Bitmoji classrooms. And I know I get really excited about this. I learned about Bitmoji classrooms from Joelle Hood. I follow her on Facebook. I don't Instagram or tweet, so I don't even understand those things, but I do Facebook. Obviously not tech savvy and in the older generation apparently, but I do Bitmoji classrooms. I do them once a month and send them out in my email. I embed them in the email so that students can see them. This is the one I sent for the beginning of the school year. Each one of these is actually a link to a resource. So the help button links you to my email automatically. You click on it, it opens up an email to me. The games over here actually link you to ESL games that will help with English language learning. If you click on the mental health, it takes you to our counselor's webpage. The resources, math and science tutor, writing tutor. This takes you to the IT support so that in case students are having trouble with our technology and our online platform, they can get that. And this takes you to our food pantry in case students do need food. The last one is me. If you click on me, it actually takes you to a video that I recorded that tells the students how excited I am that they're engaged in school, how excited I am to communicate with them and be a part of their lives this year. And it reminds them that they can always call on me. And it has the Carole King song playing in the background, which I then had to explain to quite a few students who she was, which hurts a little bit, but I am getting a lot older than them now, so I guess it's okay. So this is just the first one that I send out. A lot of elementary school teachers are using this. It's a great way to start a day. It's really easy to change. It's a Google slide. You add in all of the background and all of the pictures from online. You just search the web and add them in. You add in your own Bitmoji. And then there are ways that you can publish it online and embed it in emails. And it just makes for a fun and different way to communicate with students. I send out weekly emails to my students with all kinds of pertinent information. A lot of the time it has the writing, math, and science tutors on it, pretty much every time. But they get tired of just reading all of that. So a picture that they get to click on and see what it does is so much more interesting. Not to mention the fact that I like to add questions to my emails. Like, hey, who can tell me what song was in the background when I was talking to you? Click on all of the links in Bitmo in my classroom to find out. This is the one I did for October, obviously. We're talking about paying for college next year. We have the FAFSA and the OSAC. My little Bitmoji goes to the Thriller video. These take you to clips from some of my children's favorite Halloween. And then I also have a whole ofrende, which if you click on certain links will take you to information about Dia de los Muertos. I like to make sure that I am as culturally responsive and aware as possible. Not everybody celebrates Halloween. Not everybody celebrates Dia de los Muertos. Diwali just happened over the weekend. I made sure to send an email out saying Happy Diwali, right? That's important to our students, that we are understanding and accepting of who they are and where they come from. So I make sure that each month I'm adding in those important things to all of my students, not just to me and what I celebrate. So we talked a little about how much I care and how I bring food to my students, and front porch visits. So once a month, I've been visiting at least 4 homes. It's kind of morphed this past month after I made this into like 10, because I had a few students that weren't replying back and I was getting really nervous because they're usually really good at communication. I implemented this due to COVID. I didn't used to go to their houses. I used to just meet with them on campus, sit down and have a coffee and check in with them. I obviously wear my mask. I have a couple different masks. I have one that just has hearts on it. I have a rainbow one. I have one that says mental health matters. And I stand in their driveway or in the front yard. I bring snacks or fidget toys. I can collect homework as well. Sorry, my son is done with distance learning and came running out. When it comes to snacks, they're obviously pre-wrapped. Sanitizing occurs when I hand it over. Same thing with the fidget toys. While most of my students don't need them, it is a fun thing to give out. It's usually something squishy. I'm a very tactile person. Obviously, I probably haven't stopped moving my hands during the entire session here. I'm a tactile person. I like to have things to play with. I have multiple things on my desk that I use. And so I feel like it's important to students. We tend to have a lot of nervous energy and we need to get that out, but we also need to be able to focus on the Zoom meeting that we're in or the Google Meets that we're in, the lecture that we're listening to, right? So to give a student something like that, to tell them, you know, I accept the fact that you might wiggle. And like I said, I collect homework. You know, we have to be flexible right now. And I have a lot of students who online learning is not for them. They can't figure out the Blackboard system. They get extremely frustrated. And then students who've already dropped out and were disengaged, when they get frustrated, they do that again. They disengage. They're done. They still have that very negative connotation that if I'm struggling, I'm dumb. And this isn't for me. We work a lot with students in my programs on growth mindset. You are supposed to struggle. It is good. You are learning something. Why would you know when World War I happened? Why? Is that just ingrained? Were you born with that? No, you weren't. You have to learn it. We have to go over it. We talk a lot about, you know, a toddler. How did they learn how to walk? Oh, well, somebody had to teach them. How many times did they fall? Oh, a lot. But did they get back up? Yeah, because they don't understand that failure's bad, right? They have a failure leads to my next step. So we work on that. And with that, if you're doing your homework, awesome. So the online system didn't work for you. It's a challenge. Okay, let's work on that. Okay, you figured out how to pull your homework off of the Blackboard. We use Blackboard. Okay, but you couldn't figure out how to submit it. All right, can you take a screenshot of it and email it to a teacher? If you don't have online access or computers, I can print a packet for you. You can do the packet. You can either screenshot it and email it to me, or again, I can come pick it up. And that's one of the things I do during front porch visit is I pick up homework. I'll scan the homework in for you. I'll email it to your teacher if that's what you need. The fact that you are trying to do your homework and you are trying to turn it in should be enough right now. My program was able to buy 4 laptops in our budget this year, but 4 out of the 40 students that needed something, we have to be flexible. Fred Rogers, I love him by the way, said, in times of stress, the best thing we can do for each other is to listen with our ears and our hearts. And that's what these front porch visits are. I'm listening, I'm here, and I care. I can't say how many times it's just important to say that you care. Weekly emails and incentives. So I kind of mentioned this with the Bitmoji classrooms, but I do weekly emails, acknowledgements of hard work or struggles of the day, important resources, any college events. I do mindfulness and mindset quotes or videos, and I do a monthly drawing. I do incentives. So in that Bitmoji, when I said, tell me the name of this song, your name gets entered into a jar that I have, and I pull a name at the end of every month, and that person gets a $10 either Starbucks card or Amazon card or something that'll be helpful, but also exciting to receive. I tried the bookstore once at our college, and all of the students were like, I'd rather not have that. So I didn't, I stopped that. But it incentivizes the students enough to read my emails, to communicate with me. And once they open that door to communication, once they email at me and say, my mom says it was Carol King, I can email back with, awesome, how are you doing? And now we've started a conversation through an email that just gave you important information. These emails are always fun. They always have pictures, they are brightly colored, and they are bullet pointed. I am not writing full sentences. It is not a paragraph long. Nobody's going to read that. They look a lot like my slides do. They're succinct, they're to the point, and the point is communicate with me, right? And then just flexibility as a whole, schoolwork, give extended time, allow, you know, you didn't turn it in by 11:59 p.m., but you turned it in by 12:30. I'm not going to mark it late, right? So we get so into, but we have to follow my rules, that we forget that we need to be flexible right now. Rules are great, and we should try to follow them. And I know that forcing students to conform to that is important, because that's what a workplace is going to look like. But COVID has changed that, and we need to be flexible. I work late at night. I do study halls from 7 to 9 o'clock, if that's what my students need. I have texted with students in crisis all night. I give assignment choices. You know, would you like to do a PowerPoint or a children's book? I am not huge on doing tests with my students. The word test is extremely scary to a lot of them. It's nerve-wracking. It instantly adds anxiety. So I don't call things tests. I don't even call them finals. I do a lot of, let's do a project now. That project is my test. That project is my quiz. But I'm not going to call it that, because that somehow terrifies students. And I was one of those students. You call something a test, I'm done. I've now blacked out. I'm not listening. I'm terrified. So we do assignment choices and projects. Can you do a PowerPoint on the information that you've just learned? And here's all the things you have to do. It's the same thing as offering them a test, right? These are all of my questions I was going to ask you anyway, but instead of calling it a test, make me a PowerPoint or a children's book. Students really enjoy the children's book because they get to some of that downtime I was talking about. They get to add those pictures. They get to pick the background of things. It's exciting to get to write a book. We do journals, and I use Flipgrid so that students can have conversations 1 minute at a time with one another to a question. It allows for that discussion to happen a little more in person than just typing answers online and waiting for somebody to type them back. My teachers through my high school programs are full-time high school teachers in the area, and they offer one-on-one Zoom sessions, recorded Zoom meetings, Some of them work on the weekends. I have one specific math teacher who works Saturday and Sunday because his students are available then. He takes Thursday and Friday off and works Saturday and Sunday. From what I understand, his wife is not super excited about that, but she accepts it. And with flexibility, we need to remember, and this is another thing that I've heard from Joelle, is to be curious, not furious. Why are we offering those extended times? Something happened. What do they need? Don't be mad that they turned it in an hour late or 2 days late. Why did they do that? What happened that made them turn it in late? Yes, it could be that they were just being lazy, but it also could be that they got called into work and they can't say no because they need the money. Or one of my students, his mom was having heart pains and he had to take her to the hospital, right? There are reasons behind it, and we need to be curious about those reasons, because us just being mad and pointing our fingers and being sticklers about the rules isn't helping right now. They need to know that it's okay to need a little extra time and it's okay to ask for it. That's the big thing. They need to know it's okay to ask. If you want to be a true professional, do something outside yourself. This is definitely outside yourself, right? Allowing for extra time and working late nights is taking something from us as educators. And it's exhausting and we are tired. And that's also why we need to remember to give ourselves grace. We need to remember to give ourselves that self-care. I take an hour a day off. And when I say off, I mean off. I don't even hang out with my children. I'm done. I get 1 hour. It's usually between 2 and 3. And I get to do something that helps me with my mental health, which right now has become kickboxing, because I am stressed. I am anxious. I am tired. I am exhausted. I have so many things going on and so many students that need my support that I'm worried about. And I can't do much about it, right? I can't see them on a daily basis. I can't give them a hug. So I like to kick and punch a bag for a while to get my frustrations out. And I fully support students to do that as well. I have gone on Zoom meeting walks with students because they needed a break, because they showed up to a study hall and they were freaking out. You know what? Get up, let's go outside. Let's get some fresh air. Let's get some sun. I'll walk with you. Of course, we need to be enthusiastic and celebrate things. I tell my students when they join my programs that I'm here for them. I will do anything I can to support them. But if they stop communicating with me, I will find them because I care. So I tell them I'm a stalkerazzi. I'm a little bit like a stalker and a little bit like the paparazzi in that case, right? I'm here for you. I want you to do well, and I'm not going to let you just disappear. If we give up on them, if we stop reaching out, they know we don't really care. Or at least to them, it's that we don't care. It may not be that we don't care. It may be that we're overwhelmed with work and it's one more thing to add to the plate that we didn't get to, you know, our long to-do list, and that's one of the ones that didn't get done for the day. But to them, it's just a reminder that education system doesn't work for them. So this is one of my graduates. She has allowed me to share her story today. She is 18 and just graduated from high school. She should have graduated last year. Her sophomore year of high school did not go well. She was bullied and the school did not help. She tried to commit suicide. She joined my adult high school program to pay for classes out of pocket, but her family couldn't afford to do that. But she needed support. So when we started the Gateway to College program, one of my requirements for her high school was that she be the first student enrolled, because she needs that support and she was of the right age. She graduated with dual credit classes. So she has 3 college classes done, and she will be attending college in the fall. This was taken a month ago, so extended terms were given. And this was in her family's home. Grandma's not mobile enough to come outside. So I went inside to take photos, and we did a graduation ceremony. I bought a cap and gown so that she could dress up, and I printed out and framed her diploma for her. Graduations are a really, really big deal to these students, and we don't get to do them right now because of COVID. So I have gone out and bought a cap and gown, which I get dry cleaned every time, and picture frames so that my students can still have that graduation experience, so they can still get the pictures taken, so they can still hang a diploma up. They get dual credit cords if they took college courses, so they get that experience. It's not what they would like, obviously, but it's what we can do. And spending a couple hours celebrating with her was amazing. And the fact that she's going to go on to college next year is huge, because 2 years ago, her comment was she didn't even think she'd be alive today. So we have to celebrate every little triumph they make. Teacher support. How many of you need support? How many of you are drowning with all of the work and all of the worry and all of the anxiety of trying to teach through COVID? It's a quiet group today. I offer technology training. I keep them informed. They get my weekly emails. My teachers do, just like my students, so that they're informed. They get thank you letters in the mail. They also get thank you gift cards from me. And I do my own mental health checks with my teachers as well. How are you? What do you need? How can I support you better? Technology is just a tool that we use. In terms of getting the kids to work together to motivate them, the teacher is the most important person. So I take care of my teachers just like I take care of my students, because my teachers are my front line of defense. My teachers are seeing what's going on. My teachers are letting me know if students are struggling. And my teachers are struggling too. So overall, it's a lot of mental health support versus educational support right now. And it has worked well. I still have students communicating with me. I am getting text messages daily. It is more than I thought I would get during COVID, considering how many students are not engaged with online learning. While my students may not be fully engaged in online learning, they're engaged with me and my programs. And that's my number one goal right now, is to make sure they're engaged and okay. All right, this is time for you guys to talk. I've done a lot of talking now. So does anybody have questions, comments, tips, tricks? It's been a long meeting of just me talking. I'm sure you guys are getting a little bored.
Hey, this is Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I love the snail mail thing, and I just to build on that, one thing our site is doing is we're sending them like just an actual newsletter. It's that you can put on your fridge. That was scheduling, just emails come and go, and as parents of kids in school, we're getting tons of them. We're trying to manage that along with our own email. But we send the idea when we send it out to the sites and with the intention of, hey, put it on your fridge. You can see everything, tips or whatever. It's just something that kind of stands out above, the chaos in the house, and keeps the teachers front and center. That's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that idea. Anybody else? What are you guys doing that's working? What is it that you need more support on? Let's talk it out.
I asked this in the chat, but is there any state policy or district policy or anything that's helping you support what you're doing there, your practices?
Yeah, no, not really. My programs are interesting in the fact that while I do work with the state and submit master plans each year of how it's going to go, I have a lot of individual identity. I don't, because for instance, my adult high school diploma program isn't funded, there's a lot of expectations that I'm not required to do. I would say that before COVID hit, one of the things that the school districts were starting to be really supportive of was delivering meals to students on campus. My students are on free and reduced lunch, but because they're on the community college campus, they weren't able to get food. And I had to work with the state and each district to find a way to get those students their lunches on campus. And I've talked with the school districts about that during COVID, and what they're doing right now is local elementary schools and middle schools and high schools have a couple days a week that they can pass food out. And so I've just been reminding my students, hey, you know, your schools are supporting this. When it comes to, you know, policies, I'm trying to follow the COVID policies. Again, Oregon's really been shut down, so those porch visits are at a hold. I can't do a porch visit during a lockdown, right? I started doing porch visits when they started to lift some of those restrictions. I work with the school districts and the community college to make sure that what I'm doing aligns with what they're doing in their COVID responses. But a lot of that is funding. The college itself has received a lot of grants to help pay for computers, but that's at a college as a whole, not my programs. And the same thing with the high schools. The high schools have Chromebooks that they've passed out to everybody. Problem is those Chromebooks only allow you to access the district's pages. Therefore, those Chromebooks are not helpful to students who are taking our classes at the community college, because you're not allowed to log in to the community college on the Chromebook. So a lot of what I'm doing is actually being hindered by what school districts and states are doing, because it just doesn't take into account the fact that students may be at an alternative school that is not its own standalone high school. Mine's part of a community college. So yeah, not really.
Hey, Samantha.
Mhm.
It's Annie Margis from Oregon. Nice to see you. I put some things in the chat, but I think just for folks from other states to understand, community colleges really operate independently in Oregon, and they're connected. The high school completion programs are connected somewhat to the local districts that they work with, but the state education agency, the Department of Education, doesn't. There is not currently any sort of connection between the K-12 system and community colleges. So, and that's something that that I've been trying to figure out, because our community colleges, and Samantha, I think you and I actually talked about this at the conference last year. Our community colleges are serving a similar population in these high school completion programs. They're serving at-promise youth. They're serving youth from 16 to 21, which is still within the purview of the state education agency. But there is currently no coordination.
Yeah, we have with the HEC, which is our Higher Education Coordinating Commission. My adult high school diploma program has quarterly meetings with other programs that are working with community colleges, and we are all so different, and it really is just so open as to what we could be doing, and they're trying to make those coordinations, but you're right, it just isn't part of the institution to include what community college is doing with K through 12 and how we are supporting that. But it is something that we need to work on, because we have at least in the Portland metro area, Mountain Hood has a Gateway to College program, and so does PCC, which is taking these at-promised youth and bridging them into college and re-engaging them. But it doesn't help all of them. So yes, I totally agree, Annie. It would be great if we could just really sit down and get a coordinating committee just for the supports of community college and our work with K through 12. Greg, did you have another question?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I left my mic on.
No, that's
Kids.
okay. It's it's kind of how I'm like paying attention to who might want to talk. Anybody else? I mean, I would love to hear what you guys are doing, what's working. If you have any questions, you want me to expand or explain what we're doing. I have the chat open, which is interesting because there are no messages in the chat that I'm looking at. So Nancy, if there are any questions that you can see.
I don't see any questions right now.
Okay. So I just want to leave you with my last quote then. Kind of live by this quote. It's the bottom of my email, actually. And it says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And I think that's a big thing for students. And that we should remind them that they are powerful beyond measure. These students have so much grit and so much resilience, and they need to see that. And we need to show them how powerful they can be, especially when it comes to their lives. And I thank you so much for joining my meeting. I hope it was beneficial. And if you need anything, I'm on the WOVA app, so you can send me a chat. We can link up, talk about program design or just supports. Or if you just need to talk, need a mental health break, I'm here for you.
Thank you so much, Samantha.
Of course. Have a wonderful weekend.